I was heartbroken like everybody else about the way the city was getting beat up. But just also like everybody else, I'm incredibly proud to see how it's come back.
That's the voice of Rob Paulsen. Born in Detroit, raised in Michigan, and now with a voice known to millions. The singer and actor is the kind of person that can light up a room with just a few words. Whether it is as the voice of Pinky in Pinky and the Brain, on the Animaniacs, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's magic. He has more than 250 animated voices and 1,000 commercials under his belt. Rob comes back from time to time, and we caught up with him at TEDx Detroit for a wide-ranging conversation about not just his career, but his life. After all, there are many facets to the man. Paulsen is an author with a moving book called Voice Lessons, about his journey through stage 3 throat cancer, and host of the podcast Talkin Toons on the Nerdist network. So in a moment, to our conversation, along with Sven Gustafsson at the Fountain Ballroom at the Masonic Temple. But first, thanks to our members on Patreon who help make this show possible. Independent, in-depth media needs the support of the community. Advertising only makes up a portion of revenue and often pushes content to the quick hits and the less thoughtful. And that's where you step in. Join the many people named Dave who support us at patreon.com/dailydetroit. And to be clear, you don't even have to be named Dave to help out. And thank you. Joining us in the beautiful Masonic Temple is Rob Paulsen. If you don't know who he is, you've probably heard him. He's a voice actor. He is extremely talented in multiple ways. He's a singer as well. I also understand you're a hockey fan.
I am.
All right. Gordie Howe.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me, firstly. Yes, you're talking to a pure Michigan boy. I was born not far from here at Women's Hospital 147 years ago, and lived my first young life in Livonia on Westfield Street. Then I moved to Dearborn and lived on Meade and Michigan Avenue, I think, and junior high in Rochester, high school in Grand Blanc. And my folks had a summer home on Lake Marguerite and Grayling. So my dad was in the Michigan National Guard. I'm a pure Michigan person. But yeah, man, the only other thing I wanted to be as a kid was a hockey player. And I was, but not to the level of making any money at it. But to this day, do you know when I cut myself, I still bleed red, just like the Red Wings? I am a big Red Wing fan, and Gordie will always be my hero, always.
See, I noticed that because, my father was born in Montreal. And so he was a Rocket Richard guy.
Richard, right.
And he and I would just, I was not old enough to know about Gordie, but of course I had to take the other side.
Yeah, of course.
Because, I'm a Red Wings guy.
Yeah, and so your dad must have been heartbroken when Gordie broke the Rockets' record.
Oh, yeah, he was very much so. He's like, the wrong guy got it, very much. Like wearing his Habs jersey when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what is it? You've done so many things. You could do things anywhere. What is it that you keep coming back to Michigan for a variety of things? What keeps pulling you back here?
It's Michigan. I've had the good fortune of living in L.A. or California for 41 years, and I love California. It's my home. It is.
It's going through some hellish travails nowadays.
The problem is with that old song, it never rains in Southern California. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It burns, man. It burns. And I will always be incredibly grateful for everything that California has given me and my family. However, Michigan not only is the place I was born, and my parents are buried here and all of that and relatives, but there is something to be sure, I think, to be said for the Midwestern work ethic. And look, we're broadcasting from a beautiful building in downtown Detroit, which is in my view, an utter metaphor for the indomitable power of the human spirit. Look what this city is recovering from. And right up the road, Flint is trying to do their best to get through the same stuff. This is a remarkable place, man. It has been, like a lot of places, up and down, but the glory years of the auto years in the post-war era just got the living daylights beat out of it 15, 20 years ago. It was awful here. And I was heartbroken like everybody else about the way the city was getting beat up. But just also like everybody else, I'm incredibly proud to see how it's come back. And that is in my DNA. I'm a freelancer like you guys, right? I take a punch. I don't get every job. You guys are nice enough to make a fuss over me out of the thousands of jobs I've done, which means I didn't get thousands more because I audition a lot. But the one overarching thing that my father and mother taught me and my siblings, because they learned it from their immigrant parents, my grandparents on both sides were immigrants, is about utter personal responsibility. It's that you go ahead and find your way, but it's on you. Nobody owes you a thing. You were lucky enough to be born in the greatest country in the world, in a state which has given your family everything. And nobody owes you a damn thing. Man, you've already won the lottery just by being born in Detroit and people who love you. So go out and make your way, but just realize where you've come from, and you can figure your own stuff out. And I am so proud to have the sort of blood of Michigan pumping through my veins. It's a remarkable place. Also, it's freaking gorgeous.
People do not give this state enough credit
God.
for what it is. I mean,
but I would buy a house in Traverse City in a freaking heartbeat if I had, one day I probably will. Leelanau, Petoskey.
I had
Mackinac
Nand up
Island.
in Harbor Springs.
Harbor Springs, it's gorgeous. My parents, we had every summer, the day after school let out, my family got to go every summer to Lake Marguerite in Grayling. My dad was a member of the Michigan National Guard, Houghton Lake, Higgins Lake, not to mention the Great Lakes. In the winter, it's gorgeous. In the summer, we just went through the fall. With the exception of maybe the Northeast, there are very few places in the world that are as stunning as Michigan.
Yeah.
So it really has everything. All the major sports teams. It has, you could just talk all day about Hitsville. You could talk all day about the music that's come out of this place.
Oh, Lord, yes.
Right? And rock and roll and actors and writers and Francis Ford Coppola, Jerry Bruckheimer, crazy numbers of people who have come out of here. And it's a beautiful state. So why not come back here? I love it here.
Not to change topics.
No, but I'll ramble. Go ahead.
But we would be remiss to not talk about, your kind of career arc and
yeah.
some of the shows that you've
please, thank you.
done voiceover work on.
Yeah, go ahead, fire it up.
Yeah, okay, so a lot of these shows are, I'm old enough that I missed them. I was a little bit old by the time that these aired, but you have appeared on shows like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And
I didn't miss any of these.
All right, so Jer, yeah, you probably remember
Jerry.
his voice, right?
Oh, of course. I mean, that's why it's kind of an honor for me here, because it's kind of like your TV made real.
Yeah.
In some
thank
ways.
you. Yeah. Well, I think one of the things I'm learning, Jerry, a lot is in fact, I talked about it today in my TED Talk, is the extent to which people connect with these characters. Now, we know it makes, I have a superpower. All I have to do is say, "Narf," and people smile, or "Hello, nurse," and people do what you're doing.
Now, just specify, who are these characters that you're voicing?
This is a character called Pinky.
Narf.
From Pinky and the Brain. And Yakko from Animaniacs. Hello, nurse.
And Raphael from Ninja Turtles, and Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. And then I got to be another turtle, Donatello, on another version of the show. But now that I've gotten to be much older, and I still work every day, Rick and Morty, we're doing Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain again.
I'm glad they're back, because
Thank you.
When I was actually on the studio lots out west at
In
the beginning
Burbank?
of my career,
Yeah.
the Animaniacs were on the water tower,
Yeah,
and I
it's
was
pretty
like,
cool, huh?
It's
That's
so
where we
cool.
live. Yeah.
And so now Mr. Spielberg has decided to do it again. But I now have the glorious opportunity to go around the world and meet people to whom these characters are profoundly impactful. I mean, way bigger than my paycheck or an action figure or a rating point. You guys, I meet people almost daily who will tell me, I got to tell you, Mr. Paulsen, most people really dig Ninja Turtles because, it was a big part of my childhood, just like Bugs and Flintstones are for me. They're a big deal. But then I'll meet people who will say, but for Ninja Turtles, my childhood was a frickin' mess. That I was in the foster system from the time I was 6 months old till I was 18, and I went to 6 different homes in that time period. something that I would never even comprehend how to deal with.
I mean, the characters provide an escape. I'm someone
Yes.
who came from, my mom passed on when I was 10. My dad afterward, checked out. And so these kind of characters were the thing that's like an escape, a place where you could get away from reality of having to pay bills when you're 13, 14 years old, you know?
Of course. And no, bless your heart, firstly, but virtually nobody knows that kind of struggle at that age. Nobody knows it. And I didn't. And so I now understand how deeply impactful those characters are. People say, it got me through a time that I didn't think I was going to get through. And not just my show. It can be SpongeBob, or it can be Transformers, you know. I meet people who did 2 or 3 tours of duty in Iraq and will get tearful when Pinky starts talking to them because it reminds them that that's how they decompressed after going out on patrol, where their job was not to get killed, you know, and their job was to kill other people. And then they come back to their camp and chill out watching Pinky and the Brain Ninja Turtles. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I think that's part of the gift and responsibility of those of us who are on any sort of microphone
Yes.
have.
Well
I was just
said.
listening to a listener who was at this conference who discovered us while they were in Okinawa.
How about that?
And you're sitting there going, but I'm on this microphone here, just like podcasting about how could that be?
We also apparently have a listener, long-standing listener in Uganda.
Really?
Yeah.
See,
So
but
cool.
isn't that cool? With
Hello,
the,
listener in Uganda.
Yes, the nature of social media and the nature of technology is such that we can do that instantaneously. But you said something very important. There is an inherent responsibility, I think. And every now and then you'll see a famous athlete or an actor, musician, whatever, who will very kind of cavalierly, you know, the interviewer will say, well, you know, dude, you're become a role model. And sometimes the people will just kind of shirk and say, I'm not a role model. The kids and blah, blah, blah. I do my thing. And blah. Well, like it or not, you are. And it can be for better or for worse. You can decide not to behave in a way in which, you know, people would want to emulate you. Nobody's perfect. But I think if you're lucky enough to garner anything resembling celebrity, wealth, ubiquity, where people can see you all the time, that just comes with the territory. Nobody shoved a gun in my mouth to be an actor. I chose to do this. And you guys are talking to me, and people have put me in a position in which I have a certain amount of pull now. And I want to help. I want to be inspirational. I'm not perfect. But if my story is going to help somebody follow their path, that's what we're here for.
Most recently, you've got a new book out.
Yeah.
Voice Lessons. This came out this year? Or?
Yes, just
Yeah.
less than a month ago.
Now,
Yeah.
this chronicles your struggles with throat cancer.
Yeah,
Is that right?
surprise. How
Wow.
about that?
But it's in remission
I'm
now?
fine. Yeah, I'm cured.
So
Yeah,
we're on the happy end of that,
we are.
thankfully.
And you know what? Honestly, somebody coined this phrase to me, and I understand it when they said, you know, oftentimes once you get through something like that, and you're in a position that I'm in now, you find that it's a gift. And that old adage about what does not kill you makes you stronger. Cancer has been a remarkable gift to me, especially because I received it, or I got the diagnosis and the treatment later in my life. When I was diagnosed, I had already had a wonderful career. I've been married to the same woman for 100 years. My son is married and all, you know. So even if they had said, the doctors had said, look, here's the deal, Rob, really sorry, but you're just going to go home and we're going to keep you comfortable, but you're on your way out. You guys, I have nothing about which to be sad. It would have been a drag for my wife, you know, but I'd had a remarkable career. I grew up in Michigan. I got to, you know, see my child graduate, get married, won an Emmy, hang out with Steven Spielberg and other people that I get to work with. I'm good. But they didn't tell me that. What they said was, we're pretty sure we can kill you, but before we do, we almost have to kill you. It's a brutal treatment for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Now that I'm through it, I have a much more interesting story to tell, especially in the context of what I do for a living. These characters, as it turns out, are really powerful to so many other people and their children, many of whom didn't make it, whom I've spoken to over the years, and my friends will call up, you know, little boy wants to talk to Raphael, little girl wants to talk to Yakko, and their parents know they're not going to make it. They know they're on their way out. The only way their 8-year-old is going to get out of that hospital is in a body bag. these children, by their incredible courage, gave me the courage to deal with my own time in the cancer cage.
One of the things that strikes me about your energy in general is that it's beautifully positive. And where do you think that comes from for you?
I have to say, growing up in Michigan, my parents were both pretty positive people as well. And I was exposed and encouraged to learn music, to perform and do all that. Not necessarily to become a professional. I think they created a monster, and they weren't real thrilled when I said, hey, I'm not going to U of M, I'm going to Hollywood. It worked out, but I get why it freaked them out. But I mean, again, we're talking about the general area in which I grew up. We all grew up. Michigan is beautiful. We have access to all this cool stuff. I had supportive parents. I had a pretty idyllic life. I did not have to deal with the incredible stress that you did as a child. You're a remarkably positive person too, and you're here doing this wonderful stuff and making your soul happy. People in Okinawa and Uganda listen to you. You're doing something you would do because it makes you happy and brings joy to other people. And you went through something that I will never know. My son will never know. Most people will never know. So I think my parents imbued in me and my siblings, look, you guys are already in great shape. You got nothing to bitch about. Don't dig up snakes to kill them. You know what I mean? Don't look for stuff to be unhappy about. Because if you're going to be unhappy, it's going to be on you. We're releasing you into the world with two parents who love you. We've given you everything you need to make your way. We've paid for your education. We've gotten you food, clothing, and a nice place to stay, vacations in Grayling. What do you have to be upset about? Go on and live your life. So I think it's a combination of things, but if I can't be happy, shame on me. Unless I have a real, a medical condition or an emotional condition that precludes me from doing that. I've won the lottery by having just the life I've had. Then I go to work every day and do something I would do for free, and people pay me a lot of money, and I get to come and talk to nice people like you. Then I do TED Talks, and I have people coming up to me all day telling me how inspirational it was. And it's inspirational because I was inspired by some really great people like Gordie Howe and Steven Spielberg personally, but also people who nobody will know, like children who I've kept in touch with their families after they've died. And they continue to tell me how powerful Pinky or Yakko or Raphael or Donatello is to their family or was to their child who's gone away. And they'll have pictures to share with me about this. Remember this picture? This is when you talked to Geordie just before he died of cystic fibrosis. But remember when you guys had lunch at the commissary at the Warner Brothers lot, and you told him that
Yakko and Wacko and Dot live up there,
and that he'll never, he never forgot that, and he made it to 12. But Rob, I'm now remarried, and I'll never forget it. Are you kidding me? That's what happens as a result of my work. I'm profoundly blessed.
I feel like that's the magic of legacy.
It
right?
is.
Right. And that's the thing is if you're going to do creative work, if you're going to build anything, I really think you should look at it as legacy, something that can be bigger than yourself.
Yes.
So with that in mind, what are some of the tips or things you've learned over the years being a performer that maybe other people could learn from, or tricks of the trade, or something that you've found that's carried you through? Because it is a hard business.
It is. But again, as I said something earlier that I think really bears repeating, when you choose to be in a creative endeavor, like podcasting, music, whatever, everybody would love to make a living doing something they would do for free. Everybody. But people ask me, gosh, Mr. Paulsen, isn't it hard in LA? Isn't it hard? Well, hard is having a couple of kids with muscular dystrophy. Hard is working on a family farm that's going under because you can't compete. Hard is pouring tar on a freeway in New Mexico in August. That's a hard frickin' job. Is it challenging to get work in Hollywood? Of course it is. But it's challenging to be a lawyer, to be a brain surgeon. Those are all very competitive fields. Nobody forces anybody to be an actor. Nobody. If there are, I don't know them. Everybody I know, almost to a person, has chosen to be in the creative fields despite what their parents say. Most of the time it's like, what? You're going to what? You're going to... What? But you got your degree. I know, Mom, but I just really... What? oh my God. And I understand that because they're parents. So the times that I get down, I give myself about 30 seconds to feel sorry for myself and saying, where else would you be? Nowhere. This is what I want to do because the highs are really high and I've learned how to take a punch. I chose this life. The other side of the coin, though, is that like everything else, it really is about being kind and thoughtful and compassionate and empathic to others. We really, truly are all in this together. And if you're able to do something and follow your passion, do it with people who share the same love. That's really cool. I mean, when you're surrounded by your tribe, you go to Hollywood, you go, oh my God, these people are all into the same thing I am. And you share the ups and downs together. But when you're kind and loyal to your friends and fans, and then things start to happen. I have friends of mine now who are incredibly famous and very wealthy and have all won Oscars and Peabodys and Emmys. And I've known them since they were a cocktail waitress. And we were in acting class together. That is so cool. You get almost the same Jones out of the success out of your friends as you do to yourself. And it comes back to help you. It's almost impossible to not be a little bit jealous because you work hard. And you go, oh my God, Brad Garrett. I've known Brad Garrett forever. He's not Everybody Loves Raymond. I used to play golf with Brad. Of course, I keep in touch with him now, but it's like, I want a series too. Well, it was his shot. It doesn't mean you suck. It just means he got it. So you can't take the down stuff personally, and you need to celebrate others' successes too, because it's not just about you. It's about others. And I'll tell you what, the best way for me to encapsulate being humble, humility, is Gordie Howe was my hero and always will be. But he went from being my idol to my hero in 5 seconds in the following way. I got to know Gordie and Colleen very well because of Ninja Turtles. Their grandkids were Ninja Turtle freaks, and I'm a hockey player. So I was on a team with a bunch of actors out in L.A. playing the old-timers of National Hockey League teams for children's charities. So I hooked up with these guys, and we got to play the Red Wing old-timers at the Joe. Turns out Gordie Howe's grandkids were turtle freaks. We hit it off right away. Okay, cut 2 years later, I'd done a number of charity events with Gordie and Colleen. The first person who called me after I won my Emmy who was not a family member, was Colleen Howe. Delightful, sweet people, and they always made it about others. Watching how Gordie handled being who he was a master class in humility. And one event I was invited to with them was a softball game in Vancouver. And I was sitting next to Gordie signing Ninja Turtle stuff at the end of the game, and he was signing everything that wasn't nailed down because he's Gordie freaking Howe. Young man about my age waited an hour and a half on his feet to meet Gordie and have Gordie sign his puck. Gordie at the time was about 65 years old, so he literally signed 1 million autographs in his life. And of course, I'd grown up listening to him on WJR radio with Bruce Martin and Bud Lynch and all these guys. So now here I am really having a personal relationship with my idol. And then he switched to my hero for the following reason. This young man whom I'd mentioned walked up to him and said, "Thank you for signing my puck, Mr. Howe. Your hand must be getting really tired." So Gordie, at 65 years old, puts down his glasses and he says, "Not at all, son. I've worked too hard for this privilege." Now, he went immediately from idol, which is something you kind of go, oh my God, I want to be like. He plays hockey, not about the hockey schmocky. Gordie Howe is the embodiment of how you move through your life when you become that. It's utter humility, understanding that it's important to make the other person feel as important as they perceive you to be. Steven Spielberg has the same quality, and most great people do. So I have no patience anymore with hotshot young movie stars, athletes, whatever, with a couple $100 million in the bank and don't have time to take. If they're signing time at the Nike stores from 10 to 12, at 12:01 they're gone and there are 30 kids in line, bullshit. Because the people who could behave that way don't. So I learned at the feet of the masters. And I'm telling you, the fact that anybody pays attention to what I do and gets joy or inspiration out of it, I have people like Gordie Howe to thank to really tell you, this is how you keep your nose clean, son. Those people are the reason you got a job. So I'm very proud to be from Michigan.
Well, with that, Rob Paulsen, thank you so much
Thank
for
you, guys.
stopping by the table. We really appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Great to meet you.
Cowabunga, dude. Take care. Thanks a lot.
It's the end of the week, so some thanks are in order. Cheyenne Nocerini, editor extraordinaire. Randy Walker, who also joined us this week as a mobile engineer, which was super important while we were running around at TEDx Detroit. Remember, we do this every weekday at Daily Detroit. And something neat has happened. We've almost caught the Dallas Morning News in the daily podcast category. It's crazy that we're even charting, which is a testament to you and your support. So we have a goal. It would be kind of cool for a little podcast from Detroit to do better than a newspaper with 700,000 subscribers and 3 million website visitors. So tell a friend to subscribe on Apple Podcasts so we can show Texas just what the Motor City can do. With that, I'm Jer Stays. For Sven Gustafson, take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.